Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He is the podcast host of Mission Matters, and of course, author of several books, no other than Mr. Adam Torres.
Hey Daniel, man, a lot of fun being here. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited to get into our book, my book, Driven.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Adam, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
So Daniel, as I mentioned, the author of Driven. I'm also the host of the Mission Matters podcast. So I've interviewed over 6,000 individuals, created over 100,000 pieces of content, and I'm obsessed with helping other people share their stories. And that's one of the reasons why I created this book, Driven: How to Elevate Your Success as an Entrepreneur.
Definitely amazing, Mr. Adam Torres. Thank you so much for sharing your talents to the world, your knowledge, and we are looking forward for more empowering books like this. So, what drives you to succeed as an entrepreneur, and how can you maintain that motivation?
So Daniel, one of the things that I talk about in this book is really it's if you think about the book, it's a tale of two different types of entrepreneurs. So there is an entrepreneur in this book, also the second author, which his name's Elliot Callan, and we have two different perspectives in terms of what drives us and what motivates us to success. So myself, I was considered more of the accidental entrepreneur. So someone who ended up being an entrepreneur who really hadn't planned on being an entrepreneur. Whereas my co-author in the book, Elliot Callan, he was what we called the serial entrepreneur. So he was the person that created many different businesses, sold some businesses, had some different successes there. So we both had two very different ways of approaching entrepreneurship. But at the end of the day, we were both focused on how can we add value, how can we add value to the marketplace, and that was some of our driving successes and motivations into what helps us succeed.
So, Mr. Adam, how do you define success? And how does that definition influence your decisions?
Success for me is part of it's monetary. So some people like to say, success isn't a monetary thing, or they think that that's not. But I do think money is a measurement. So that's definitely a component of success.
For
That's one
sure.
of the ingredients. Without money, it makes it really hard to do other things that you want to do, right? Or to provide for your family, or to provide jobs, and to provide influence for others, and to provide opportunities. The people that work for me, the people that we're able to influence, that we're able to touch, again, the jobs we provide. So money is a big component of this. Another piece of it is the name of my company and our platform is called. It's called Mission Matters. So I think a big part of success and to have a successful life is to really be aligned and to be doing something that aligns with I use the word mission. Some people use the word passion. People use the word purpose. But for me specifically, I think if you're mission aligned in whatever you're doing, I feel like that's a big component or ingredient to success. Another component for me is some type of faith or spirituality. So I'm Christian. I'm raised Catholic. I'm Catholic. So that spiritual aspect, that component to me, having a good relationship with the source or the creator, for me, that's a big piece that I think ties into success, because you can have money, you can have a lot of other things, but if you don't have that relationship with your creator, and if you're not thinking that way, I think you're missing out on a whole lot. So those are, let's just say, three of my key components, and I say ingredients that make up that recipe for success.
Beautifully articulated, Mr. Adam. Very well said. So, what habits can you develop to stay focused and productive daily?
First thing is consistency in whatever you're doing. So whatever you say is your number one activity, the number one. If you're going to be a writer, if you're going to be a writer, guess what you have to do every day? Right. Right. Sounds obvious, but so
Hmm.
many people tell me they want to be writers, and I ask them, "When's the last time you've written?" And I'm thinking they're going to say earlier this morning, or an hour ago, or a couple hours ago. No, normally they're like, "Well, I'm going to be getting back on this book project." I'm like, "Well, when's the last time you've been writing?" A month ago. I'm like, it's hard to be a writer if you're not cranking out words. Like, if you're a writer, then guess what your output is? It's called words on a page, or words on words on your laptop. So in my case, I am an author, but my daily profession is I'm a podcaster. So if somebody asks me, when's the last time you recorded an episode, my response goes something like this: today I recorded 10. So not only did I record 10, but I was interviewed 2 to 5 times. So every single day, that's what my thing is. So for example, this year I will record and distribute between 1,500 and 2,000 podcast interviews. So if you think about that, that's 40 years of content for the average show that puts out, let's say, 50 episodes a year. I'm putting out 40 times that. So if you ask me, am I a podcaster, or am I serious about this game or this sport of podcasting? Ask me when the last time I recorded an episode is. I might tell you, hold on, I'm recording one right now. Let me hold for a moment. Let me finish this episode. I'll get right back with you.
Certainly, and congratulations being belong to 2.5 popular show globally. So how do you handle failure, and what strategies do you use to turn setbacks into learning opportunities?
Failure is a learning opportunity, I would say. I mean, it hurts. It hurts. There's an emotional connection to it. There can be a monetary connection to it. I mean, you lose a lot of money. Nothing's funny about that, right? And it hurts. Your family hurts. Everybody hurts when you lose a lot of money, because you make a decision or an investment on something that you thought was going to be a win, and it didn't turn out quite the way you wanted. It could be a piece of real estate. It could be a business. It could be a project that you invested your time and the opportunity cost of doing one project versus another. So time is the big one to waste and to spend on. So what I like to do is I like to look back and at least get a little bit of a return on my investment for that failure in the form of education. So I definitely want to reflect on, why didn't that work, or what did all of it not work? Did a piece of it not work? Is there something I can salvage? Was there a learning experience, or was I just stupid? I mean, and I'm not going to lie, there's been some decisions in my lifetime where, I was just stupid. It was maybe young and inexperienced in a business, or I took a chance, or I took an unnecessary risk that in retrospect, I learned from, and I won't do that same thing necessarily again. But ultimately, as long as you continue to play the game, and as long as you continue to show up for whether it's work, whether it's your project, whether it's your craft, whether it's your show, whether it's, hey, the first book you wrote didn't sell, it sold 10 copies and your mom bought 5 of them. Like like whatever that happens to be. I mean, it does. If you want to be a serious author, guess what? You got to write another book.
Yes.
You got to learn from that. You got to get better. You got to test your material. You got to say what went right, what went wrong. Like, for everybody's journey is going to be a little bit different. So in one sense, you can say I've done over 6,000 interviews. Okay, great. I'm in the top 2.5% of podcasters, but I'm not in the top 1%. So maybe, who knows? Maybe I'm the worst podcaster. Could be. I did over 6,000 episodes and I'm not the top 1%. Who knows, right? But guess what? I'm going to keep on recording. I'm going to keep on getting better. And that is my goal, to be in the top 1%. So I'm going to keep on persevering till I hit that goal. And then I'm going to keep on, and I'll set new goals. So it's kind of like your perspective on it. But perseverance, man, you got to show up. You got to work.
Certainly. So how can you set clear, achievable goals that align with your long-term vision?
I like setting short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. So my short-term goal, for example, for this year is, or I should say, my short-term, I like to go 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. So but you can even cut it down smaller. But my short-term goal this year is between 1,500 and 2,000 interviews for my show. That's my goal. And in doing that, I can break it down further and say, okay, that's at least 100 to 150 up, 100, 125 interviews a month. I can look at it that way, but I more so look at it because I know I'm going to hit that goal. I've been doing that for years and I know I'm going to hit it, but it keeps me on track. So I know I'm going to do that. My 5-year goal, I just do the math. My 10-year goal, I know I want to do another 15,000 to 20,000 interviews. So as I hit these goals over time, I track them. I have a board at home where I literally a big old whiteboard and I'm tracking every month how many interviews I did. And some people track revenue, some people track other metrics in their business. For me, I do that too. That's a given. But the number one activity I found that leads to more revenue, more business, a larger audience for my life and for my business is podcast episodes. That may be something different for someone else, but if you can find your one activity that you as a founder or you as a CEO can do that's going to make a difference in your life and in your business, and if you can track that one thing, not everybody may be able to attribute it to one thing. I happen to be able to do that, but that's after 9 years of testing, by the way. So that's after 9 years to figure out, oh, this is the one thing. I do less interviews, we have less revenue. I do more and I have it in the sweet spot. Guess what? We grow. So I was able to do that. But if you have a metric, it may not be one thing, it may be two, it may be three, but I don't feel like it should go much further than three. If you got three things at the most that you're tracking as your core have to do's, I feel like things can go really well for you.
Certainly. So, Mr. Adam, how do you prioritize tasks to ensure maximum efficiency and impact?
I like to think about whenever I'm doing a task, does this something that I can do that I have to have my attention on, or is somebody else on my team able to do this, or should we be outsourcing this to something like maybe a fractional employee, a part-time employee, somebody else that's better at doing this, or maybe even another company, a service provider. So all of these different things, every single time a new task gets put on my plate, I think about like, do I really need to be doing this? And I constantly reassess that. So as I reassess those tasks, over time, I get rid of some tasks. Over time, some new ones come on my plate. And then I think about, okay, should I be doing this? Or should I not be doing this? Can I have someone else on my team do this? And it's a constant cycle. It doesn't just stop at one point, but it's a constant cycle of rotating through that process of I'm doing these actions. Should I be doing these actions? And that'll change over time. Maybe an action that I'm doing right now, in the future I won't be doing because we'll have somebody else on the team that's either capable or better at doing that task than myself.
So, for your latest book, Driven, what is major tips that you want to share to us?
One of my major tips is to get started. I find that so many people let fear hold them back. And that fear sometimes, like I share the story about how we and our company originally started, and people may see me now and say, oh, okay, this guy, well, he has this certain personality that he's going to be able to do a podcast episode, or he's like he wants to be in front of camera, or this or that. But none of that's true. So I don't come from the entertainment background. In fact, and when I did my first show, I was so scared that I didn't even use my own name. I had a nickname that I used. In fact, being in front of a camera when in the beginning and when I first started this, let me tell you, I did between 1,500 and 2,000 episodes before I would be in front of camera. Why? Because you turn on a camera, Daniel, and I'd be like, hey, welcome to I forget my name. I couldn't even introduce myself. So I had so much fear and stage fright. But now, many years later, I mean, I do both camera, I do audio, I do live and if anybody wants to see any of this, by the way, if you go on my Instagram, you'll see pictures, you'll see videos. Ask Adam Torres. You can see what I'm talking about. But I do live interviews in front of hundreds of people. I've been in front of audiences as big as 17,000. So now, but that's 9 years later. So my takeaway, one of my big ones from the book is like you can't judge where somebody's at today thinking they just started that way. Like that's after thousands and by the way, I'm a slow learner. For other people, it's not going to take thousands of episodes. Some people have that in them already. If you have that in you already, good for you because you're way ahead of where I started.
They gifted. And people stop procrastinating. If you have the passion to do what you want to do in life, please do share to the world like Mr. Adam Torres. So, what steps can you take to develop a winning business strategy that sets you apart from the competitors?
Hmm. So if we're talking about product, I like to think about what's unique in the marketplace that other people maybe aren't able to fulfill, and this doesn't mean a new invention. I'll give you one example of one of the products that we actively market and that sets us apart from the competition. So one of them is we have something that's called our event promoting and broadcasting program. And that's where we will work with conference organizers. So imagine there's a conference organizer, they have 100 different sponsors, they have all these different booths, they have all of this crowd and audience, and they want to find new ways to add value to their sponsors so that they can raise the price of their booths and what they're selling for their sponsors, but also add more value. So one of the things that we do is we'll go on site, we'll do interviews, I'll interview all of the different sponsors, we'll distribute it. There'll be podcast interviews, there'll be social media, there's an entire marketing program that goes with that. And guess what? We've managed to establish, to as far as I know, and I hope other people would do this because it's definitely a big, wide open ocean and it's a needed service. But as far as I can tell, we're the only company out there that's doing this. And think about it this way. What are we using? We're using a podcast, we're using interviews, we're using our distribution, but we're reinventing and repackaging that in a manner that puts us really as a very unique product because others aren't necessarily even offering it. So how did we come up with that? Well, we came up with it by thinking about how can we add value to the marketplace utilizing our gifts and what we want to bring to the market anyway, which in this case was interviews and social media and distribution. So we were already doing that. So then we went to our strategy was to go to where we could add the most value, and we saw the ecosystem of conferences. Boom, it was a match made in heaven. So when we think about now, you may not be doing interviews, you may have a completely different business, but use some of the same ingredients or components that I just mentioned, and think about how those do apply to you. So, if you have a particular business, like where is there a need or a niche or some area that's not being served? If I didn't really examine that question, I could have easily said, well, there's 4 million podcasts out there. How can I do something different? It's saturated. It's this, it's that. Bull. Bunch of bull. Bunch of bull. I don't accept it. Whatever. I
Yes,
don't you could think like that, but that's not the truth. That's not reality.
true. So, Mr. Adam, let's talk about leadership and team building. What leadership qualities are essential for driving business success, and how can you develop them?
So I like to think about it as leading from the front is very inspiring. I like to follow leaders that are willing to get in the trenches, that are willing to get their hands dirty. I think that's super inspiring. I've just always followed that type of leader in my life, so I've always strived to be that type of individual as well. So an example of that would be the early days of Mission Matters in this company. Guess who was doing all the editing? I was doing the editing. I was doing the editing. Guess who was doing the social media? I was doing the social media. Now we have, over a team of 30. And so we're not huge like, maybe iHeartRadio with 3,000, 4,000 plus employees, but we like to put out great content. And I feel, and I try for it to be more inspiring for my team to know, hey, I edited too. I can have a conversation with my editors, with my writers, with my graphic designers. Why? Because some of the old processes I designed, which have long since been upgraded, perfected, and made better by all of the individuals on my team, but they understand that, hey, I started doing that too. So if we have a big workload of editing or of creating designs or content, and we have to work extra hard to make sure, some deliverables are ready for a client, they know I've been doing it too, and I've been in the trenches for years, doing the same type of work. So I find it inspiring when others are leading from the front. So I try to, for my organization, lead from the front as well. I don't ask somebody to do something that I've never been willing to do or haven't done myself.
So, Mr. Adam, do you consider yourself as a leader or a follower?
Both. I'd say both. I'm a leader, but I mean, in order to lead, you have to be willing to follow. There's always somebody that's ahead of you in something. Like if you think that you're going to lead every initiative or everything, then that'd be pretty delusional. I'm not the best. I'm not the best qualified to lead everything, man. If I'm not willing to follow, I may be leading in my business or in podcasting or some other things, but you want to talk about, I don't know, saving the planet or talk about like saving the ocean or saving climate change or all these other topics. I'm a follower. I don't know how to do those things. I'm not that educated to that point to where I have the solution. So I have to get information from other individuals that I feel are more educated and that I trust, and I have to follow. Otherwise, I don't learn myself, even just to learn.
So, Mr. Adam, what will be your advice for those people out there who want to cultivate their passion?
Work on it every day. Like, gotta work on it every day. Like, and because that's how you're gonna really test it. Like, is it your passion or is it your hobby? Or is it something that I'll give you an example. Daniel, I've bought at least 5 guitars in my life. Every single time I buy a guitar, man, I saw a John Lennon movie the other day, and
Mm.
it was, and he's playing the guitar, and he's up there, and I'm like, I'm gonna get a guitar again. This time, I'm gonna take guitar lessons, and this time I'm gonna learn, and this time I'm not gonna fall off the wagon. This time I'm not gonna stop practicing. Man, Daniel, I bought that guitar. I didn't even open the box. It's still sitting there. I'm traveling. I'm in Miami right now. I was in Las Vegas doing a gig earlier this week. I'm not learning how. That's a hobby. That's not my passion, man. And why do I know it's not my passion? Because I'm not doing it every day. And I don't go to bed thinking about playing the guitar. I don't wake up thinking about the guitar. When it's inconvenient and when it hurts and I don't feel like doing it, I'm not trying to play the guitar. When I see the movie and I'm inspired and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. I want to learn how to play guitar too. Then I'm all in it. Why? Because it just feels good. And I might have gotten the dopamine hit just from buying it. I bought the guitar. I already
Yeah.
feel good. I haven't played a single note.
Definitely, for sure, it's your hobby. So, Mr. Adam, let's talk about financial and business growth. How do you manage business finances effectively to ensure long-term sustainability?
Cash flow is king. I mean, you need it.
We need
Cash
money.
matters. Cash matters. Hey, a mission matters, but cash matters. It's like oxygen, right? You need it to breathe. If you don't, and so in order to do that, you need to have a good team. CPA. If you have a CFO, if you don't, if a fractional CFO, if you just have to have it in order if you want to be in business. And it may be okay when you're, smaller. You may be able to manage some things, but just be careful because as it gets bigger, you don't want to mismanage or make the incorrect decisions or put cash in somewhere and think something's working and it's not. And even just, I've seen this many times. Um, Something as small as you start spending a little bit too much on advertising or on marketing or on other things, you kind of lose track, and then you're like, well, wait a minute, where'd my profit go this year? And you're like, did I really need all those Facebook ads? What was our ROI on that? And you don't have a number and you don't actually know. I've seen many business owners do that, and it's like you can ruin a profitable business by mismanaging, and a good business by mismanaging your cash flow.
Certainly. So, how can you leverage networking and partnership to expand your business opportunities?
So one of my mentors, his name is Christopher Kai, and he's known as the billionaire networker. And one of the things he's taught me from day one is you got to be in the right room. Like you're in the wrong room and you're networking and you're doing. I mean, there's a difference between being at a free business event that's super convenient, that's around the block from your house, and that all the same people always go to, and it's very easy because it's by your house and you just walk by it and you're like, oh yeah, we're all gonna conveniently sit here. There's a difference between going to that free event that's low hanging fruit and that doesn't take any time or real effort, and getting your butt on a plane and going to a conference or going to a mastermind and spending some real money to attend with other really serious people. Like there's a
Mm.
difference. So you could. There's some people that spend years in that coffee shop or at that free event or at that Denny's. First off, if you got a networking event, no offense, and you're at Denny's or you're at IHOP, okay. But if it's free, there's no ticket, there's no buy-in from the people that are attending, and they're there for free coffee. I mean, that's not the network that's necessarily going to move the needle. Not saying they're not good people, by the way, but we're talking about business here. So if you're going, like the people that I'm networking with and that I want to meet, they're not going for the free coffee. Their time is worth a lot more than coffee at the local coffee shop, right? They're doing big things. They're jumping on planes. They're going to the big cities. They're going to the big events. They're spending big dollars on tickets so that they can not only learn from the people that are there, but be around other people of that same mindset.
Certainly. So, what role does continuous learning and personal development play in your success?
It's mandatory. I mean, every year. I mean, think about things like right now, what's going on and the advances in AI. If somebody was done learning after college, and if you're not picking up a book or you're not doing anything else or not, continue your education, what do you do about AI right now? How do you implement that in your companies as leaders? Like it's no longer okay, my tech guy is going to deal with that or anything like that. If you're a CEO or a founder or a leader out there and you're not thinking of this, it's no longer can you just outsource it. That's a conversation now. Technology, specifically AI, is a conversation that affects every single person, from your assistant to your accountant to your lawyer to your every single piece of your business right now is going to be, or is already, depending on the size of the business, being affected by AI. And if you're not educated on it as a leader or a founder, and your assistant knows way more, and if everybody else at your company knows way more, how are you going to effectively make decisions on where to deploy capital and how to continue to stay on par, or continue to take ground from your competition? Because the ones that are educating themselves and that are figuring it out are little by little, day by day, gaining on and taking market share from you. You just don't know it yet.
Yes. People, AI is like climate change too. It's everywhere
Hmm.
on the globe. So before we wrap up our discussion, Mr. Adam, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, in its fifth season, people. Fifth season with my co-host, Chef Alessandro, one of specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Please do
Mm.
listen to our latest episode. We are reading our letter senders all over the world. So, Mr. Adam, how can you stay ahead of industry trends and technological advancements to remain competitive?
I'd say go to conferences. I went to, for example, one of them that I like is CES in Las Vegas, the biggest tech conference. It's billed as the biggest tech conference in the world. Go to conferences, go and meet with other thought leaders in your field. Stay aware, read. Like, don't just put your head under a rock and think it's going to go away. I'm telling you, AI, all these things that you're hearing that are going to come, they're already here. They're already here. And the reason I know is I also have a tech show. So I mean, I have a tech show where I interview. I can't tell you how, I probably did 50 interviews on AI from AI experts this year. And we're even talking about, I've done a couple episodes on Web 4, which if you're listening to that and you're like, wait a minute, didn't we just get to Web 3? Yes, we did get to Web 3. And yes, it's still a thing. So is Web 2. So is Web 1. And I don't claim to be a technologist, by the way. I have a tech show, and so I learn from a lot of individuals that are way smarter than myself in that field. And what my aim and my goal is to ask questions so that I can learn, but also so that my audience can learn as well. And you can see, by the way, for everybody listening to my Instagram, Ask Adam Torres, that's a good way to connect and get involved with the content. But if you're not doing that, like going to conferences, having conversations, thinking about how to integrate technology into your business to make you more profitable, to give you more reach, or whatever your objectives are, then you're behind. And you don't want to be behind for too long, because then you become extinct.
Certainly. Mr. Adam Torres, thank you so much for sharing your podcast, your books to the world. We are looking forward for more episodes to empower all over the world. So can you please invite our listeners to listen to your podcast and of course to support all your books?
Absolutely. So, everybody listening, really appreciate your time. Thank you, Daniel. Check me out on Instagram, Ask Adam Torres. There's a link there in the bio that connects to the books, the podcast, everything else. Again, Ask Adam Torres, and shoot me a DM. Let me know that you found me on Daniel's podcast, and love to chat with you. Send me a message.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Adam Torres because if you support him, of course, more empowering episodes, more empowering books to come. So, Mr. Adam, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Daniel, man. Appreciate all you do. Appreciate you.
More to come, people. See you soon.